Hello, good morning, and many thanks for joining us on the news at 10 on the network service of the NTA. I am Chimobi Walter Naji. Glad to have you with us. First, let's take the headlines.
The President assures Nigerians that he will do whatever it takes to ensure that a repeat of NSAS protests does not occur in Nigeria again.
Presidential assurance of support in the quest for a more secure and peaceful Nigeria. Federal government to replace the Annual Performance Evaluation Report, APA, as a tool for assessing civil servants with a performance management system, PMS.
Before the end of this regime, the First Lady of Nigeria is going to establish a state-of-the-art cancer center.
Correspondent examines Nigeria's battle with cervical cancer as the horizon brightens for IDPs in camps, better living conditions in the offing. We're glad to have you with us on the news. We'll start with security matters as more proactive, decisive and robust plan of action are soon to be unfolded towards curtailing and containing the prevailing acts of crime and criminality in parts of the country. Minister of Police Affairs Muhammad Maigari, who announced this after an extraordinary meeting of the National Security Council, said the move is to ensure that Nigeria is more effectively secured and peace reigns supreme for the good of all. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the meeting was summoned by President Muhammadu Buhari.
Although the National Security Council meets on quarterly basis, this one is coming less than 1 month after the last strategic engagement by members on the nation's security situation. President Muhammadu Buhari, who convened the meeting, is worried over the increasing cases of armed banditry and kidnapping in parts of the country, which he described as intolerable. During the meeting held behind closed doors, members of the upper echelon of the nation's security and intelligence community took turns to critically analyze the situation and make recommendations on the best way forward. The Minister of Police Affairs, Muhammad Maigari, who briefed newsmen after the meeting, said the President was unequivocal that Nigerians deserve a much more peaceful environment and nothing will be left to chance towards achieving the objectives.
Mr. President thanked members for the efforts they are making in maintaining peace and will do whatever it is to support security agencies in providing peace in the country. Mr. President assures Nigerians that he will do whatever it takes to ensure that the repeat of NSAS protests does not occur in Nigeria again. Mr. President has assured that all stakeholders will be involved in the process of maintaining peace in the country, that federal government will continue to maintain its democratic, humane and just postures in handling security matters in the country.
Participants at the meeting appreciated the President for his genuine commitment to national security and promised to individually and collectively remain alive to their responsibilities in the maintenance of peace, law and order for a prosperous Nigeria.
The meeting agreed to be more proactive in dealing with the situation in the most decisive manner. The meeting noted the need to pay greater attention to the police in the discharge of its functions of maintaining peace in the country in the areas of equipment and modern technology. The meeting thanked the President for the concern which he has shown in repositioning the police to perform more effectively.
The National Security Council has a constitutional mandate of advising the President on all matters relating to public security. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And now move over to Kogi State, where the governor, Yahaya Bello, has reaffirmed the commitment of the government and people of the confluent state to the values and virtues of the Buhari presidency as it strives towards enhancing the nation's trajectory to the next level socio-economic development. The governor stated this while briefing journalists on the outcome of his engagement with President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo again has the report.
Governor Yahaya Bello was in the nation's seat of government to brief President Muhammadu Buhari on his efforts at developing the confluent state in furtherance of the next level agenda, as well as strengthening what he called the social bond between the government and the governed.
I drew Mr. President's attention to the dredging of River Niger from the High Sea to Lokoja and up to Baro. If actually we want the economy of this country and of the North to prosper. We equally appreciated, Mr. President, over the railway line that has been approved from Itakpe to Lokoja to FCT and even up to Baro. I appreciated, Mr. President, over his handling of the NSAS issues for the prompt response and granting of the 5/5 demand of Nigeria youths. Also, the youth of Kogi State are expressing their appreciation to Mr. President over the various social intervention programs that are geared towards uplifting the youth and women from poverty.
While commiserating with the president over the loss of lives suffered by the Nigeria police and other security agencies in the aftermath of the NSAS protest, the governor also explained to the Nigerian leader steps being taken towards maintaining law and order in the state.
From inception of this administration, due to our leadership style, we are connected to the grassroots. We are connected to the various groups, various associations. Whenever there is any uprising or any threat whatsoever, there is alarm. So no any hoodlum or invaders will ever cross to Kogi State to cause chaos. And that is why we are effectively handling and tackling even insecurity in the state.
He said although Kogi is free of coronavirus, over 1.5 billion naira post-COVID-19 relief package has been launched in the state for the less privileged and described as evil the reported imposition of tax on bread by his administration.
It is on Kogi, and it is not in our character to impose additional hardship on our people. We are investigating those that are behind it. It is evil, it is unaccepted, to say the least. If there's a way I can make even some of our businesses, give them tax holiday, I will go about and give them tax holiday, not to tax bread.
The Kogi State governor used the opportunity to assure travelers of their safety and security as they pass through Kogi, the gateway between the northern and southern parts of the country during the Yuletide. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Now, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says the pursuit of peace and mediation in resolving some of the challenges in the country today is worth the while and useful. The Vice President said this when receiving a delegation from the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue at the Presidential Villa. He stressed the need for collaboration with such an organization in order to address some of the problems in the country and welcomed a notable future of the center engaging and employing local people in the work of peace and mediation in their own communities and country. The Vice President also acknowledged that the center has been working with the federal government on the National Livestock Transformation Plan, noting that it was an important aspect of the federal government's program in resolving the farmers-herders clashes. Vice President Osinbajo disclosed that many states have now subscribed to the National Livestock Transformation Plan, and the funding would soon be made available to pilot the plan. In the meantime, the House of Representatives has reiterated that funding of agricultural activities should remain a priority for food security. It was during a budget defense session with the Minister of Agriculture, Mohammed Sabunanano. The House also opened a 3-day public hearing on 6 aviation amendment bills. National Assembly correspondent Lamialu brings us up to speed on the happenings.
The House Committee on Agricultural Services at the Budget Defense applauded federal government's efforts in boosting the sector through the provision of incentives to farmers.
The committee is aware of the various efforts of the federal government through policy formulation and special intervention program, especially in the areas of funding agricultural activities and production.
Policy direction is to boost agricultural production, private investment, and promote market-driven undertakings in the sector.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives, in continuation of consideration of 6 aviation reform bills, has opened a public hearing. The 6 executive bills seek to ensure that aviation laws in Nigeria conform with international best standards.
This public hearing is a testament to our commitment to give new life to the aviation sector and make our efforts to be a better non-oil revenue generating sector as is witnessed in other advanced economies.
It therefore presents all of us an ample time to effect changes that will reshape this unique and high-tech sector and position it competitively in the global space.
Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika said the proposed amendments were as a result of findings in the International Civil Aviation Audit Program and other regulatory considerations.
Review the Establishment Act of 6 aviation agencies, not only to close the audit findings, but removing regulatory powers from service provider agencies, but to also, 1, bring the respective acts up to date with development in international civil aviation.
Lami Ali, NTA News.
This is the news at 10 on NTA News 24, reaching you from the Federal Capital Territory. Up ahead, victims get closer to justice as Judicial Panel of Inquiry sit in Lagos, Abuja. Details shortly. Glad to have you back on the news. Now, Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, has cautioned Gambia's finance policy makers not to embark on Nigeria's public finance management reforms without the devotion of topmost political leadership. She was speaking at the signing of memorandum of understanding between both countries that will see Nigeria provide 5 years technical support on Treasury single account for the Gambia. Leah Katimbabatunde completes the story.
It's been 15 years since the implementation of the Treasury Single Account TSA, a critical component of Nigeria's finance management reforms, which has seen the federal government save 45 million naira monthly in interest payments. This is in addition to other benefits, both in fiscal and monetary terms. This feat saw the Gambia embark on a study tour of Nigeria last year. Now agreements have been concluded and teams of experts will engage in exchange programs to facilitate the implementation of the TSA before other reforms in the Gambia, as advised by the International Monetary Fund, IMF.
What they're trying to do is what we've done here, to consolidate all of government accounts into one single treasury account that will be managed by the Central Bank of the Gambia. The benefits, of course, are improvements in public financial management, liquidity management, and also the reduction in the cost of having to borrow when you can pull all your accounts and use the resources.
There are so many other reforms that are currently happening, including the expansion of the IFMIS to all government institutions, including subvented agencies, including the regional administration offices, including our embassies abroad. We are also implementing EFT, that's electronic funds transfer.
All over Africa, all over the world, you go to IMF, you go to World Bank, you go to African Development Bank, everybody agrees that TSA implementation in Nigeria has been a success.
With the signing of these memorandum of understanding, the Gambia will be able to leverage on the experience of Nigeria to build unrecorded strengths while avoiding recorded mistakes. In Abuja, Leah Babatunde, NTA News.
And privatizing government assets as a means of kickstarting economic growth. Ronami Agrani has more on business news.
Discussing privatization at a webinar organized by the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the Nigerian Governors Forum, and the Nigerian Investment Promotion Council, Mr. Lamido Yuguda, Director General of the Securities Exchange Commission, touted privatization as an avenue for the government to unlock the abundant economic potential of government-owned enterprises. He further explained that proceeds from the sale of these assets will not only augment budget shortfalls, but could also be used to fund critical infrastructure. Now let's take a look at how the stock market performed on Tuesday, the 17th of November, 2020. With business news, I'm Ronami Egirani.
Away from a business, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad, says courts should not be used as a place for inadequate investigations and prosecution. At the 2020 All Nigeria Judges Conference of Lower Courts, the Chief Justice of Nigeria called on judges not to issue reckless remand orders in their courts. Femi Okewu reports.
The call by the Chief Justice of Nigeria for judges to stop the reckless issuance of remand orders is another way of telling prosecutors not to approach the courts with half-baked investigations and when they are not ready to prosecute cases. It is another reminder that 75% of persons in the nation's correctional centers are people awaiting trial. Judges of lower courts who are attending the annual conference are always more available for such applications by prosecutors.
It is imperative to continue to build public confidence in your courts, in particular, and the administration of justice in general. The delay in our justice system delivery has been a source of great concern to me, as it must be to you all, I believe.
Holding at the National Judicial Institute, the theme of this year's conference is the role of lower courts in promoting justice and good governance in Nigeria.
Your category of courts remain an ever-present and enduring necessity to all Nigerians. As such, it cannot be overemphasized that the need for a forum such as this is necessary to propel you to perform optimally.
In Abuja, Femi Okewu, NTA News.
And speaking to the Independent Investigative Panel on Human Rights Violations by the defunct SARS and other units of the Nigeria Police Force, Mrs. Esther Tanko, a cleaner, Tuesday gave a vivid description how her young son, Elijah Tanko, was abducted in December 2019 and taken to an undisclosed orphanage in Port Harcourt, where he was renamed Excellence. The alleged abduction and enforced disappearance of Elijah Tanko was a case in which one Desmond of the defunct SARS was in charge. Judiciary correspondent Vera Chumuba reports.
In her narration, Esther Tanko told the panel how her son, Elijah Tanko, along with 2 other children, were traced to a yet-to-be-identified orphanage. After subjecting her son to DNA test, Desmond of the defunct SARS office Abatua, Abuja, informed her that 8 other women had laid claim to her son, whose name had been changed to Excellence. She also told the panel that one of the children was sold for 8 million naira.
They said I should forget about my baby. They have already buried my baby. I say, let me tell you people, since the God did not take my child life on Sunday, my child will not die again.
The case of alleged extrajudicial killing of Alexander Obu could not be heard. Counsel to the petitioner, Marshal Abubakar, pleaded with the panel to hear the case in line with the terms of reference, even though the matter was pending in court. Respondent's counsel, James Idashaba, raised objection. Bello Akoboku, a victim of stray bullet, on how he was able to ascertain that the bullet which hit him was from the police during the Shiite-police clash. The respondent counsel also told the petitioner's witness, Eze Osita, a chemist, who corroborated Akuboku's evidence that not being a medical expert, he is not in a position to treat gunshot wound. In Abuja, Vera Chumuba, NTA News.
Now, the Judicial Panel of Inquiry and Restitution for Victims of SARS and Police Brutality sitting in Lagos has concluded the case involving Mr. and Mrs. Okechukwu Obi, who claimed to have suffered in the hands of the Nigeria Police Force. Joyken Abakboya reports that the panel chairman, Justice Doris Okuwobi, adjourned the case to December 8, 2020 to pass judgment.
You know whether he was arrested for kidnapping? You knew.
Mr. and Mrs. Okechukwu Obi told the panel 2 weeks ago how they were unlawfully detained by the police in 2017. They narrated their ordeal and how the Apex Court awarded the sum of 2 million naira as compensation to be paid by the Nigerian police. In their plea, they want the panel to compel the police to comply with the Supreme Court decision. During the cross-examination, counsel to the respondent tried to justify the reasons for their arrest and detention. He tendered some documents as exhibits, but counsel to the complainant, who objected to some of the documents being tendered as exhibits, stated that the Supreme Court had already concluded on the case. Justice Doris Okuwobi then asked counsel to the respondent if he had other witnesses, but the counsel said he had no other witness. Meanwhile, Mr. Unduku and Olajide Owolabi's cases were adjourned to 27 November 2020 for further hearing because the counsel to the respondent reported ill. In Lagos, Joyken Abakboya, NTA News.
And a delegation of the Northern Governors under the aegis of the Progressive Governors Forum has paid a solidarity visit to Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu to commiserate with him and the good people of the state over the wanton destruction of public and private assets during the NSAS violence. Led by its chairman, Atiku Bagudu, the governor of Kebbi State, the forum reinstates commitment of the APC to good governance and continuous engagement, and with the youths moving forward. Nusa Usla completes the story.
The forum, led by its chairman and Kebbi State Governor, Abubakar Bagudu, commended the resilience of the governor and residents of the state, noting the bad effects of the aftermath of the protests and calling for greater synergy between government and residents in strengthening the peace and unity in the state.
It's very clear that violence does not solve any problem, it compounds it. Today, Lagos has further taken a loss because of that violence that has attacked everything, police stations, the cultural institutions.
Governor Bagudu, who also commiserated with the victims of the violence, assured Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of the continuous support of the Progressive Governors Forum in the rebuilding of the state.
Yes, our young persons have the right to express opinions. We have to dialogue with them. We have to listen to them. They are our beacons to the world. But they have seen how the nobility of any cause can be taken over by those who otherwise have agendas that are contrary to what they thought they are out to achieve.
At the solidarity visit were the governors of Yobe State, Mai Malabuni, Simon Lalong of Plateau State, and Mohammed Badru Abubakar of Jigawa State. In Lagos, Nosa, Osula, NTA News.
Governor David Umahi of Ebonyi State has formally announced his defection to the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, in Abakaliki. Kingsley Okoro tells us more.
This is the first time Governor David Umahi is addressing journalists without PDP flag at his left-hand side. The governor explained that his defection to the APC was due to alleged injustice meted on the people of the Southeast from 1999 till date and the inability of PDP to zone its presidential ticket to the region.
APC never promised me any position. They never promised Southeast any position. There was no such discussion. The Southeast people have supported PDP in all elections. It is absurd that since 1998, going to 2023, that Southeast will never be considered to run for presidency under the ticket of PDP. It's very absurd. And if people are shouting in this country of fairness, equity, and justice, and I stand in a place where such is not practiced, then I have to, re-examine my head.
He commended the APC-led federal government for supporting Ebonyi State and Southeast Zone in infrastructural development more than the 16 years of PDP administration. In Abakaliki, Kingsley Okoro, NTA News.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. You're still watching the news at 10 on NTA News 24. Still ahead. Correspondent examines Nigeria's battle with cervical cancer. Details in just a moment. This is NTA News 24.